I'm good to go. I don't need to check the do not call list. True or false? False. All right. So we have officially been given the green light to continue with today's session. So that's what we're going to do. And just one last quick reminder, I'm here as a resource. Nothing that I share with you is required for your continued affiliation with the Century 21 brand. So with that, let's get into some Moxi Present. So our first couple weeks we spent focusing on Moxi Engage, and we talked about getting your contacts in there, how to set them up on campaigns. Today, we're going to look at Moxi Present and how to use it to create beautiful presentations when you're meeting with your buyers and or your sellers. So just a quick reminder, I think I've said it the first couple times, I actually bookmarked my Moxi Works roster page, which is that page before we get to choose which tool we want to access. So it brings me right to this screen where I can access Present, Engage, my website, or Impress. But if you forgot how to get here, all roads start from 21 Online. If you go into 21 Online, you're going to open up the menu in the upper right-hand corner. And once you open up that menu, you're going to select Activity Hub. So here's our menu. And here is our Productivity Hub. And from there, you're going to see all of our tools. You can scroll until you find any of the Moxi tools. Engage, Present, Impress, your website. Doesn't matter which one you click on because it's all going to bring you to that roster page. All full circle, and that's the page that I am recommending that you bookmark so that you can bypass the steps that we just took. Well, my computer must know it's Monday. It's cold, Denise. My computer's cold. There we go. All right, so here is that roster page. And again, this is where you would choose which tool you want to access. So today we're going to take a look at, at Present. And when you get into Present, you're going to see one of two things. You're going to see maybe what I see, which is a library of a ton of presentations that maybe you've created prior to today's session, or maybe you've got nothing in there because today is day one of your Moxi Present journey. That's totally fine. But you should all see at the upper right-hand corner that blue Create New button. And from there, you're going to choose which type of presentation you want to create. Now, I love Moxi Present because it makes every conversation look like it was something that you prepared extremely hard for, that you put together a lot of research information, and the presentation is just beautifully put together, very professional. But I want to make it very clear, it's not limited to just listing presentations. You've got your listing presentation in there, but you've also got buyer tours. So whenever you're out showing buyer property, you can plug in those MLS numbers and it will create a tour kind of packet for you to share with your buyer where they can take notes. They're going to be able to see the properties that you're going to be showing them mapped out for them. So it's a nice packet that it's pulling together for you. The buyer consultation is even before we get to that point, before the buyer tour, which is just the process of purchasing from A to Z and what they can expect from you as their guide throughout that process. So those are two that are outside the listing realm. You've also got the non-listing presentation, which for all intents and purposes, it is a blank presentation that you can really do whatever you want with. So I've seen people do some pretty cool things. They'll set up a presentation about the area and available properties that they can have set up on a tablet for their open house, things like that. So really the sky's the limit with the non-listing presentation. And the property review, that's a newer presentation. I like to call that a CMA Lite. I think that's a great piece to follow up with your sphere or past clients, somebody that you sold a home to maybe, that you might want to update on what's happening in the area and how that impacts the value of their property. So it's a nice review of, especially now as we approach the end of the year, like, hey, thinking of you, wanted to put together a review of your property. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. All right, so those are the different types. Today, we're going to be looking at the seller presentation. And that's because it entails the most steps. Not that it's hard, but it does have the most steps. So I feel very strongly that if you can do a seller presentation, all these other ones are going to be a breeze. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and select seller. And from there, we're going to choose a template. Now, the no template option just is going to have your CMA pages. There's not going to be anything about the sales process and Century 21 and the brokerage. Now, if you want to choose a template, I've got this drop-down menu, and you'll notice I have my own templates that I have built out. So I don't have to recreate, those pages all over again. They're there for me. If you have not built out a template, that's okay. Open up that drop-down menu and select, mine says brokerage templates. Yours might say Century 21 brand templates or something like that. I have a demo account, but something of the likes. And you'll notice when you switch over to that other drop-down menu, you should have these options. The commercial listing presentation. We have the fine homes and estates presentation in both print and digital versions for tablets, mobile devices. Then we've got the national residential listing presentation in both English and in Spanish. And so that's actually how I built out my template. I started with the national residential listing presentation, and then I added things, removed things, rearranged things, really customized that, made it my own. And so that I didn't have to do that every single time, I made it a template so that I can use for future presentations. So that's what we'll do today, show you how to do that. And just know that you'll be able to do the same thing for buyer consultations and all those other presentation types as well. So we're going to go ahead and select that national residential listing presentation. And today we're going to be presenting to Miss Debbie, my potential seller. And you'll notice listing source, I had to do nothing there, nor did I have to plug in the office, because those should automatically be in there. If you do not see a listing source, we do need to check your Dash profile. So reach out to Debbie. She'll be able to check that for you, because that's what's going to link your MLS to Moxi, so that when it's time to search for comparables, it's linked to the right MLS. Okay. And then lastly, you're just going to choose how you want the square footage displayed. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to just leave it at total square footage, but that's completely optional. I noticed that that's pretty regional too, what's most predominantly used in your area. So I'll let you kind of decide on that. And then we'll go ahead and click create. From there, we're going to give it a sec. It's going to load up a new presentation for us. Voila. And this is where I get to set up that presentation. There are 5 steps across the top that I'm going to follow. First, I'm going to enter my subject property. We're going to search for comparables. Then the listings or comps that we selected, we're going to make whatever necessary adjustments. We can rearrange the order in which they appear, certain little tweaks like that. Then we'll be able to provide an estimate based on what the market is saying. And then lastly, we'll get into our pages, what we want to keep, what we want to get rid of, what we want to add, so that we can finalize our presentation. So let's start with the subject property. The presentation name, I already named it. I named it after my seller. You can name it whatever you want, depending on who you're presenting to. Now we're going to provide the information for the subject property, and I can do that one of 2 ways. You'll notice I have this box here that says copy data from MLS number. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on how far back your MLS sends out data for. So I actually am pulling from the MLS number of the house that my husband and I bought 5 years ago. And so we'll see if we try copying it, if it will auto-populate. And it looks like it's going to do it. Wonderful. So you'll see it puts in the address. Anything that was on the MLS that my MLS feeds out should come in here. Now, a lot can happen in 5 years, right? Lots of changes. Maybe, we've actually added a bedroom. We have removed our carpet. our taxes have gone up, so has our HOA. So you're going to want to, if you pulled from the MLS for any reason, you definitely want to review and make sure that it is an accurate portrayal of what that property looks like and represents today. The other option would simply be to fill in the form to the best of your ability. The other thing is it will pull the MLS photos. If I don't like the one it's selected, I can choose from any of the others. Again, just make sure it's an accurate representation of that listing today. Otherwise, your other option would be to drive to the house, say maybe snap a picture and upload it in front and make that your cover photo. Maybe the house is a completely different color. Maybe these trees are no longer with us. Rest in peace. They are no longer with us, and it's a sensitive subject, so it's probably not a good look to show up to a listing presentation with an old picture of two very, very much missed queen palms. So that said, I mean that's pretty self-explanatory. So your subject property, you can either pull it from your MLS if that's an option. Otherwise, you will fill in the information to the best of your ability. I'm going to update some things here. We no longer have carpet, so we're going to get rid of that. Our taxes have gone up, so has our HOA, but off the top of my head, I have no idea. So I'm just going to leave that there. So just be mindful of that. All right, to move on to the next step, all you're going to do is move on to the next tab, and it will go ahead and save what you put there in subject property. Otherwise, if you scroll down, each step has this continue button at the bottom. Same thing. It's going to save that particular step and move you into the next step. So now we're going to search for comparables, and we're going to be able to do that one of two ways. But before we do, I just want to check in. Are there any questions on the subject property before we get into searching for comps? All right. If you think of anything, feel free to unmute yourself and yell at me, or just let me know in the chat. I'll keep an eye out for that. All right, so now we're going to search for those comparables for our CMA. Like I said, you can do that one of two ways. We've got the location search or the MLS number search. The location search is simply using the internal Moxi program to use these filters, this map. I can draw on it. Basically, I'll use their system to then select the comparables that I want to include. So if I wanted to draw on the map, it's very simple. I just click the little draw button, just like I probably would in my MLS. Sorry, my map is acting crazy. My computer's been acting crazy today. Like I said, it's cold. I'm gonna do draw. Here we go. Now it wants to play nice. So I'm just gonna draw my subdivision here. All right. And notice we've got price, bed and bath, and these additional filters. So maybe I want to widen this range just a little bit. And that's good. All right. I'm going to go ahead and, oh, wait, let's get rid of off market and canceled or other. Apply. All right. So I have these to choose from, and in a perfect world, I'd go through them and determine if they're a viable comparable. Time is not our friend right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and select some of these. And as you can see, I'm just checking them off here. If I wanted to look at them in more depth, I click on it. It's going to open up a details page for me, which is then going to allow me to, oh, here we go, details. To view those details, go through the images, and then again, I can determine if I want to include it as a comparable or not. And you'll notice our next step listings, as I'm checking things off or adding them, the number of comparables will then start to increase. All right, so we went ahead and selected 7 of the 8 listings. And now I'm ready to move forward to the listings tab. Now, before I do, I mentioned there were two ways to pull in properties, one being what we just saw. The other option would be to swap over to the MLS number option, and I can actually copy and paste the MLS numbers right from my MLS. So if I prefer to continue using my MLS to search for comparables, by all means, continue to do that. If you need more detailed filters, or if that's just where you're most comfortable, then go for it. You can use your MLS, search for your comparables. Once you like the list that you selected, you can then copy and paste those MLS numbers right in here and drop them right into your Moxi presentation. All right, no right or wrong, just a matter of preference. All right, so before we continue on to our next step, any questions on searching for comparables? Are you all cold too? You guys are so quiet today. Yeah, thank you, Denise. I'm so thankful that Denise is on camera. All right, cool. We're gonna go ahead and move on to our listings tab. And this is where we're gonna see our 7 comparables that we have selected. Make any adjustments. If I determine, you know what, I don't really love that comp, I want to get rid of it, I can. And so the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is maybe change out the order in which they appear, because personally, don't love that the default here is ordered by price from high to low. That's kind of irrelevant to me. So I'm going to change that and say, you know what, show me all the solds first, then go into pending, and then finally show me the actives. So it's going to go ahead and rearrange those in that order. And I can add a secondary sorting option. And so I can say, all right, show me the most recent sold first, because I selected sold date. So here's the most recently sold 3 days ago. And then it will work its way to the least recent and then do the same for pending and active. Okay. So I'm good with that. That makes a little more sense to me. Again, completely up to you how you want to sort those. Now, over here, I might want to make some adjustments for certain things. For example, let's see here, the square footage on all of the, oh, look, here's a good one. This one's about 300 square feet smaller than our subject property. So I'm going to go ahead and edit here, and I'm going to name this adjustment square footage. And because it's smaller, I need to add the value of that square footage. It's sold at $322 a foot, and we're just going to kind of keep it simple. It was 300 square feet difference, and so I'm going to grab my little, we're just going to, I'm going to say it's about $95,000. I'm sure it's a little more or a little less, but you guys get the deal here. I'm going to go ahead and add those, and I can add any additional adjustments. If one's on the water and one's not, if one's a 3-car garage versus a 2-car garage, I could do all those things. I'm going to go ahead and confirm. Let's take a look over here. This one's even smaller. You know what? Not really a good comparable. Actually, I'm going to leave it in there because I'm not going to use it as anything. I don't necessarily adjust anything that's not a sold anyway, but it's good to show that this has been on the market for almost 90 days, even though it is smaller. We definitely want to be mindful of not being on the market for 90 days in a market where things, as you can see, are selling pretty quickly. 3 days, 1 day, 5 days, 15 days. So it's nice to be able to show them that. So the other thing you can do here is edit those remarks. I don't necessarily need to go changing what they wrote, but I do like to add, you know, if I want to, some extra notes. So that way, if you're anything like me, when I'm looking at comparables, they all start to become a blur after I'm looking at comp after comp. They're all kind of meshing together. And so the notes, I can, you know, give myself notes as far as why I selected this comparable, why it's an important one to be looking at, so that when I am delivering this, I'm reminded of those things and I don't forget to share them with my seller. So I'm going to go ahead and just put that in there. And then when I go through the comps in the presentation, those notes will be in there. The other thing you can do from here is add a custom listing. You may not need to do that very often, but that option is great in case there's an off-market sale, for example, a for sale by owner that you couldn't pull because it wasn't in the MLS, but it was in your property appraiser's website or tax roll, and you want to include it as a comparable. Well, I can add a custom listing, and it almost looks exactly like that page that we saw when we were entering our subject property. We're just going to put in the address, the bedrooms, the bathroom square footage, any relevant information I need to compare. Okay, so that's it. That's the listings tab. That's where we can rearrange, make adjustments, edit remarks. We can add custom listings, and I can also see, some numbers here in terms of the listings, the comparables that we selected, and what the lowest sold was versus the highest sold. Same thing with all the other statuses, and I can get an idea of what the price per square foot was for each one of those. All right, with that, let's go ahead and continue. Oh, you know what? I'm going to get rid of this one just because it's skewing my numbers tremendously. Boom. All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue. And our next step is going to be to provide an estimate. Now, before we do that, are there any questions on the listings tab? All right, Denise, I'm just looking at you, girl. All right, so we're on the estimate tab. And from here, we're going to see that Moxi has provided me a number based on all of the comps averaged together, and also another number based on the average sales price per square foot multiplied by my square footage, and it's giving me this 808 number. So the other thing I don't love is that it's giving me just a place for one number, but you do have the ability to create a range where I can put, price it from this price to this price based on what the market is saying. Now, you probably saw me erase a number that was in there. That's what we bought the house 5 years ago for. I don't know why it puts it in there as an estimated market value, but it is definitely not the case today. So if you do see a number in there, do not use it as truth. Erase that. It's probably the last time the property sold what that number was. So now we're going to go ahead and create a range. And based on what I know about the property, I would probably say somewhere between 715 and 7. All right, apply. All right, and then you can put in any additional remarks if you choose to do so. But from there, we can go ahead and either continue or take a look at the estimated net proceeds tab. People either love this or hate this. And basically, it's if we sell the property at X number of dollars, what are they looking to net at the end of the transaction? So let's say we sell at $725. And they told me that their mortgage payoff is $310. And they're doing, 3% on each side. And I'm just putting in a bunch of numbers here. I don't know. Any other fees, HOA that might be prorated. Maybe we are doing a seller contribution towards closing costs of $5,000. I don't know. And you'll notice as you start plugging in numbers, the net proceeds will start to update. Now, again, this is at best an estimate for your seller, just to get a ballpark idea of what they would net at the end of the transaction if they sold at this price. So again, people either love it or hate it. If you love it, use it. If you don't, leave it blank. And when we get to our last step, which is going to happen in about 8 seconds, I'll show you how to remove that page if you do not want to include it. Okay, so from here, we're going to go ahead and save. That's the only time you'll see that save button because you've got 2 tabs, I guess. I don't know why it's got a save button and all the other ones don't, but it does. um, and now we can continue. You know what I'm going to ask, right? Any questions on the estimate tab before we move forward?
Okay, Cassandra, and it's not a question, it's more so a comment. I'm glad to see this page, because I was looking for that. I did a presentation not that long ago, and actually, I didn't realize that I could even do a custom range. So I ended up printing it out, crossing it off, and then putting in a range myself. So thanks for showing that and pointing that out. And then I think for the I think that net proceeds page would be really good, but we just have to make sure that we get all the right fees from our title company, I guess, because
Absolutely. Most of them will even prep a sheet for you. So
okay,
I know when I was actively selling, the title company that I primarily used was actually in-house with my brokerage, and they would prepare a sheet for me. So in this case, I would probably remove that page and then upload the sheet that they gave me, because why reinvent the wheel? But
right.
the other option would be to just transfer those numbers over into these blanks. So there's no right or wrong, just a matter of preference. But I didn't want to be responsible for a typo or something. I'm like,
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. So there is a way to actually remove this sheet though, and then insert the sheet that they give us. Because I
correct.
think that
So
would be a little
let's show you
safer
how
for
to do
me.
that. That leads perfect leads before I do
Mhm.
though. I want to make sure there are no other questions, but
Okay.
it would lead us perfectly into the pages option. All right, perfect. So that estimate page, you'll see I can take a look and see seller net proceeds. It's right here. Here's what it looks like if I filled out the one that was included. If I want to get rid of it, I just click on that little X. And then what I can do is come over, add a page. We'll go ahead and click on create new. And then I can upload a PDF, which that's what my title company provided me with, was a PDF. If they gave you a piece of paper, you can always scan it and upload it. Completely up to you, but that's how you would do that. So I don't have an estimated net proceeds from a title company, but what I do have is a PDF flyer that I can upload and show you what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a file here. I'm just going to look on my computer, wherever it is I might have that saved. And we'll pretend it's our net proceeds page. And the nice thing is I can even rename it. I can make changes to it. I can change that out. So we'll let that upload. There we go. So right now it's named flyer, and it actually put it after my agent profile. So if I want to move it up so it's right after my pricing analysis, great. I can drag that and move it up. I can edit by clicking on that little pencil. And what I might do is change the actual name of it. See here how I have settings? I can say, all right, I don't want it to be named flyer. I'm going to name it net proceeds. If that was the name of the actual document, then you're good to go. But if it's like some weird name and you want it to be clear so that you know what's coming up, you can change that. So that's how you would do that. So we saw how to remove. You saw me drag and drop and rearrange some of these pages. You also saw me add a PDF. Well, the other thing you can do is add pages that you build. So instead of uploading a PDF, let's build a page together. And I'm actually going to, it's kind of like PowerPoint for realtors, right? I'm just going to pick a layout here. And then just like PowerPoint, I can add text, images, video. And then we also have this more option, which I'll show you in just a second. But let's say I want to embed a YouTube video to showcase some of my marketing. I grab the link from a YouTube video that I created from a previous listing so that I can show them what I'll be doing for theirs, which, by the way, this came from Moxi Press. And I can go ahead and save that. A sample YouTube video, save. By the way, anything I create, whether it was that PDF or this sample video page, that also gets added to the library. So if I want to reuse it for a future presentation, I don't have to recreate it. I can come to add page, and instead of creating new, I can go search in the library for any of the Century 21 pages or anything that I have created in the past. So looks like I showed you another hidden secret, another hidden feature to me.
Yeah, wait a minute. I am so intrigued and excited right now. Okay, because I don't know if I missed it. I'm sorry, guys. Excuse me, everybody. I missed the first two classes. I was traveling, so I don't know if this was covered. Was this like Moxie Impress and so forth? Was that already covered and things?
I think we discussed it briefly. I don't know that we had a separate session for Impress because it's so simple. Basically, you get an email anytime you get a new listing letting you know, hey, congratulations on your new listing. Done the marketing for you. so then,
okay.
Yeah, so it's more just being aware. And then once you get it, it actually brings you to Impress, which you can access in here. And if you want to edit pictures or rearrange them, it's a very simple process. If you have any questions afterwards, I'm happy to stick around for a couple minutes. All right, so we added a video, which I love that I can embed things like video into my presentation, because I remember going out on listing appointments and having, my laptop where I can have my PowerPoint presentation that I have to close out or minimize to then go on a website to then show, a video or a website that I wanted to share with them. Then I'd have to make my way back to my PowerPoint, but then I also had my CMA. Debbie says she has a video on her YouTube channel for you on Impress. Awesome. So lots of good options here that you can incorporate within your presentation so you don't have a bunch of stuff all over the place. It's all within one presentation, which is nice and easy to present, and it makes just better sense for your seller. So I put in this sample YouTube video, but it fell under my net proceeds because that's where I wrapped up the last change that I made. So if I want to grab that and move it, again, just look for those double arrows, and I'm going to drag it and move it to the section of my presentation where it's talking a little bit more about the marketing. So it makes better sense. Here we go, step-by-step marketing plan. So let's move that over to our marketing plan. All right. So you guys get the idea. You can add from the library, you can create new. We're going to create one more page together. And that's because I told you I was going to show you this more option. Now, more kind of combines text, image, video all in one. However, it also has some additional options. So you're going to have a toolbar here that I can leverage. And really, my favorite button here is this guy where it says iframe. It's a little black and white earth. And that actually is going to allow me to type in or provide a website. So if I wanted to share maybe some testimonials from my website or from my Real Satisfied right within my listing presentation. Maybe I want to share an example of the website that Moxi Press creates for my listings. So I'll do that. Let's see. Boom. All right, so I'm just going to plug in that URL, that website. Now I get to choose how wide and how tall I want it. And this is just trial and error. I'm going to go with kind of like a TV screen 1080p. And I'm going to say, you know what? Let's go with 800. I don't know. Trial and error. If I don't like it, I can always come back and change these numbers. I'm also enabling the scroll bars because if it's a long website, I want to be able to scroll down on it within my presentation. So that's it. We're going to hit OK, and my OCD is going to force me to center this so that it's centered. And what that's going to allow me to do is now when I hit save, I'm going to put sample listing website. And once I save it, you're going to see that the website is going to be embedded within my listing presentation. And I can showcase how that works. It's a fully functional website built right into my presentation. So I can click around and show them how I'm going to market their website and capture those leads. By the way, request more info on that website. Those go into your Moxi, and you can talk about how quickly you'll be responding to those inquiries. So pretty good looking, and I'm not having to leave again my presentation when I want to showcase some of these things. So that got added right after my YouTube video, because whichever one you have selected, when you click add page, that page that you're adding will fall after the option that you have selected. If you forget to select the right one, no big deal. You can always drag it and drop it wherever you want to put it. Okay. So we've seen how to add pages, how to remove pages, how to rearrange pages. And now that I'm happy with my presentation and the changes that I have made, I can scroll down to the very bottom and save this as a template, so that I never have to add or remove those pages again for future presentations. I can come over here, save this as my template, and I'm going to name it Master Listing. Oh, here we go. Master Listing Presentation. So I know that's my most recent one. I'm tucking that one underneath Seller. And then we'll go ahead and hit save. What that's going to do is, remember in the beginning when I had the option to choose between my templates and the brokerage templates, now instead of choosing one of the brokerage templates, I choose from my templates and find that master listing presentation, which has all the changes that I made applied to it. And it doesn't mean I can't make additional changes on a per presentation basis, but it should allow you to have to spend less time working on the pages so that you can just focus on the CMA and get your listing presentation up and running. All right. So with that, I'm ready to present this thing. Now, there's a couple ways to do that. If I go to view the presentation, I can actually look at the digital version, which I think is the more powerful of them, because you have the website option and the video that you can play. Whereas if you print it out, it's kind of just on paper. Now, also the biggest benefit I think of the web version is those comps that I selected. If there were any actives that I had in there that went pending, or from the time I prepared the presentation and the time I deliver it, that would be updated. If that active that we said was overpriced because it was on the market for I don't know how many days, reduce their price from the time I prepared my presentation to the time I deliver it, that would be updated. If one of those pending sales closes, all those changes that would occur on any of those listings that weren't closed yet will always be updated because it's pulling every 15 minutes. So the web presentation allows you to make sure you're delivering the latest. Now, it's not going to add any new comps on your behalf. It's not going to sneak anything in there, but any of the ones you have selected, they will update for you. All right. Now, if I hit view, and you'll notice I have the ability to generate a PDF as well. I kind of like to do a hybrid where I had a nice leave behind piece that they can have, that I would bind for them, but I would present on the digital version on my iPad or my laptop. So however it is that you want to do that. Let's take a look at what it looks like. Get ready. I'm about to present 56 pages. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. But just wanted to show you just a few so that you can get an idea of the finished product and what that's going to look like. Now, it will prompt you to go full screen because you don't want all these tabs and things showing. So see here how it says go full screen? I can just click on that and it's going to hide anything else going on my screen. And I can now navigate using my little arrows at the bottom right-hand corner. And in between those arrows, I have a table of contents. So I can jump around too. I'm not forced to present every single page. And I might let them know, hey, you know, Debbie, I prepared all this information for you, but I'm just going to give you the highlights right now. I'm going to leave this behind so that you can look through it. But I'm really going to focus on the things that you shared with me are most important to you. That way, I'm not there for 6 hours presenting every single page. And so if I'm using those arrows to navigate, you're going to see the property summary is going to show them the subject property. Then we get into the comps. Here is the listing location map version, which is showing me the subject property along with all the comparables we selected. And at any point, I can select one of those comparables and go through the photos. I can find my notes in there if I added any notes, and really have more detailed conversations. If I go to the next screen, I call this the dining room table view. And as you can tell, they're in the order that I asked Moxi to display them in. And again, at any point, I can click on those. It'll open up those details for me to be able to go into with my potential seller. Next, we've got that side-by-side comparison view, which we're probably most familiar with. And if I clicked on any of these images, it opens up those details that we've seen in the previous couple slides. And on this side-by-side comparison view, you'll also see your adjustments. So we adjusted comp number 4 for square footage. So they'll see that you adjusted that. Here's my adjusted price based on that adjustment that we made. Okay. Now, the last screen as far as comps are concerned are going to show me all my comps by status. So all my actives, pending, solds grouped together, and you'll see that side-by-side comparison. So we can take a look at, you know, the price per square footage difference and days on market and all that jazz. There's a ton of additional pages. Again, go through it, determine what you want to keep, what you want to get rid of. Here's our estimate page, which shows the range that I plugged in there and any other stats that were available. And from there, we can see our net proceeds, which are not really our net proceeds. It's my flyer. But you guys remember that we repurposed that flyer and made it our net proceeds. So you'll see it looks like it belongs there. It doesn't look like I piecemealed all this stuff together. If I come down to my marketing, you're going to see, look, there's my website that I can click through and show them how it works and how I'm going to be creating one of these just for them without ever having to leave my presentation. My video is in here too somewhere. I just don't, oh, here it is, that I can play right within my presentation. And listen, I do this for a living. I present all the time where I have a PowerPoint open, then I want to share a video, and not having to leave your presentation makes for a much more smooth and seamless delivery, to say the least. So I'll let you guys kind of go through those pages on your own, but wanted you to see what that looked like. Now, if I go to my homepage where all of my presentations live, you'll see that I have, wow, there we go. There's my presentation for Debbie. And I can, if I want to go back in there and edit anything, change anything, I click on the little pencil and it'll take me back to those 5 tabs that we worked our way through. If I want to take a look at some other options, I can open up this little menu in the bottom right-hand corner, and you'll see I can view it right from here, the web or the print version. I can share it, and that would be to share with somebody in my office. I can email it. If I want to email this to my seller, for example, I can send the presentation or the PDF. I'm going to recommend sending the presentation because anytime what they're getting is actually a link to view that presentation. So if I make any changes to it, if I add things to it, remove things down the road, anytime they click on it, they're seeing the latest version. And if those comps get updated, they're also seeing the most updated version of those comps. And actually, if they're horrible, terrible human beings who decide not to list with me, I can just go in there and remove those comps. And now they just have a book that talks about how awesome I am that they can share with whoever they want. But they're not going to use my work to share with their cousin's brother, sister's friend who's going to do it for half the price, right? So sending the presentation just gives you that much more control versus a PDF. It's kind of like you're etching it in stone, right? So we're going to go ahead and close that. Again, that's right here in these three little dots, the ellipse. That was the email option. The other thing you can do is make a copy of it. So if I click duplicate, you're going to see in just a couple seconds, I'm going to have two of the same presentation. Well, why would I want to do that? Well, what I like about that option is, there we go, there's my second one. I can come in here and edit the copy while maintaining my original one and remove whatever pages I want to remove. So if I wanted to get rid of, you know, all the comps pages, I might leave the property summary, but I'm going to go ahead and say bye and bye to all the comps pages. I want to get rid of them all. Then I can print this version and leave that behind while I'm delivering the full version, the original version with the comps. And so I'm not leaving behind any, you know, sensitive information. They have the edited version without my full CMA in there. Does that make sense? Awesome. Now, the last thing I want to share with you all here is in these same options, I can also assign this to another agent or team in my office. So if I am maybe helping somebody in the office and I build out this presentation, then I realize, oh no, I did it on mine. No big deal. I can assign it to Denise. And then what that's going to do is it's going to remove it from my library and put it into Denise's library of presentations. So I always tell people to be careful with the assign option. If you want to maintain a copy of it, I would say always do duplicate before you assign, because assigning will remove it from yours to put it into the other person's. The other option would be to add a co-presenter. Well, Denise and I, we don't actually work on a team officially, but every now and then we work together on a deal, right? And so we're going to partner on this listing. And so I can search for Denise here, which you're not in my office though, but I can search Tom. He's in my office. There we go. And I can add him as a co.
Just add me, Cassandra.
I know, I wish. You're just not, I'm not in the Home Star family, I guess. Maybe I can be added soon. And so you'll notice that I've got a little buddy here. And so that means there's a co-presenter, which means this presentation is now going to be completely co-branded. Me and that co-presenter will be all throughout that presentation. So we'll see Tom, which we'll tell him he's got to get his picture in there. But you'll see we're both in there. And once we get to like the pages where it talks about us, there's a page about Cassandra. There's a page about Tom. It's going to be completely co-branded from beginning to end. And Tom would also have a copy of this presentation within his library as well. So I know I went over quite a bit. You know what? There's one thing I didn't share because it was a newer release. And since we have a couple minutes, I'm going to share it with you. If we go into the presentation where we started from the very beginning, see here how right under the copy data from the MLS, we have the contacts option. They now linked the ability for you to link this presentation with a contact from your Moxi Engage. So if I'm in my Moxi Engage, I can track it, see if, you know, Debbie's opened it, or if Debbie has, you know, clicked on things. I can see when she opened it, how frequently she opened the presentation, and I can also access the presentation right from my Moxi Engage, because my Engage is my CRM, my customer relationship manager. But if I have that contact, I'm trying to think of who I have in there. Let's see, Ada. We'll pretend that says Debbie right there. And so it's linked now to a contact that I have in my Engage. So if and when I do send this to Ada or Debbie, it will start to track that activity for me. So that's a newer feature that they rolled out not too long ago. All right. So we've got about 7 minutes left to spare that I don't need, but I want to throw them to you all. I don't want to steal your time. Are there any questions on anything Moxi Present related before I let you go?
I have something to contribute to the class.
Please do.
In your presentations, when you're checking the listing one and you're going to create a new one, right? I have created a buyer's guide for all of you to use, new agents or old agents alike. If you click on create new for me, I'll just tell you where I have it hidden. If you click on create new, you're going to go down to non-listing because it doesn't have anything to do with any listings or a specific buyer. And you'll go to brokerage templates and it will say buyer's guide 2023. And it's got a whole bunch of information that you can just email over to your buyers on the steps that it's going to take for them to go through, what it's going to take to talk to a lender, things they shouldn't do, things they should do. And it will all have your name on it instead of mine because I made it work that way. So that's an added feature for you guys that I created just for Homestar agents.
Well, thank you, Debbie.
Oh, you're welcome. I was playing around with the system, so I had to figure something out somewhere, right?
Right.
So Debbie discovered that your brokerages can absolutely create presentations for you. And I love that she's taken advantage of that. And I hope that you all take advantage of the work that she put into creating that. That's awesome. All right. And just a quick reminder, that was under create new, non-listing. And when you select from your drop down, you'll select brokerage templates. And I don't have it in mind because I'm not under the Homestar office or brokerage, but you should see it. And it would say, you said buyer 2023?
Yep, buyer's guide 2023.
Beautiful. There you go. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys 4 minutes of your day back. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this afternoon. And I think we've got our last and final session next week.
Yes, that should be a fun one on the website.
Favorite class. Get excited.
On
Wednesday.
Thank you. It was a good time. I enjoyed this class and I will see you next week.